Welcome to Bereans at the Gate. This is our video blog for December 3rd, 2018. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
It's always good to be joined by Dr. Clausen and Dr. Wheeler. Dr. Heyman cannot make it with us this afternoon. We will soldier on without him. I guess George Bush is really the person to talk about. We had the former president died. Was it Friday night, Saturday morning? Is that right?
I think. Yeah.
I'm just curious for you two, when do you have a first recollection, Mark, of George Herbert Walker Bush? When does that name come into your consciousness?
My consciousness, it was actually when he was running for president. That's interesting that I hadn't heard much about him before, or if I had, it just kind of went over my head.
So 1980?
Around 1980 or so, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And not that he wasn't busy. He was a very busy man,
Right.
did a lot of things, but he just was, a lot of what he did was sort of behind the scenes more.
Yeah.
So,
Bert, what about you?
I would be the same during the primary leading up to the 1980 election. I think would have been it. Although he was very busy, I just wasn't. I was so young, I wasn't much in tune to what was going on politically.
yeah,
Now, the Republican Party, I think it's fair to say, was pretty different in 1980, 1984, 88, even 92 than it is today. Bert, when you look at Bush as sort of a politician, a Republican politician, what comes to mind?
First word that came to my mind is moderate. That's what I always thought of him. He was a politician and represented the mainstream Republicans in the Reagan coalition. So that's what I thought of Bush. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
When you think mainstream, you're thinking like WASP, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, old money, is that what you're thinking?
Old money, wealth.
Yeah.
Kind of a moderate person, not really ideological necessarily, but political, and a very good gentleman, very moral, very ethical.
Yeah.
But I really think that my remembrance of him is when Reagan tapped him to be the VP, was that Reagan was trying to pull the party together.
Right.
That you had this radical Reagan out there trying to pull the party back together by choosing Bush. And that's really my first memories.
Yeah, that's pretty descriptive. I mean, Reagan was a conservative, probably the most conservative Republican since Goldwater, one of the most conservative Republicans, period.
Sure.
Needed to pull the party together. Mark, what about you? What's your perception of Bush as a politician during those early years?
I agree moderate, but I think of moderate in terms of its context too. In that era, moderate was still more conservative than it would be today, I think. So I think he was a fairly solid conservative in most respects. But he was also ironic, willing to compromise if he had to, for good reasons, without sacrificing too much politically. But the word ironic really stands out to me. Something you just don't see as much of today with all the rhetoric we have today.
Yeah, let's talk about his presidency for just a couple of minutes, and I want to talk about today's context. He obviously would be an odd fit, I think, in today's Republican Party, but either one of you, what do you guys think of when you think of the Bush presidency? And what were some of the big things that happened that our viewers should remember, or at least learn about?
Politically, unfortunately, the one thing that he said was, "Read my lips, no new taxes."
Now, when did he say that?
Was that 1988?
Yeah.
Was that right? Yeah.
Yep.
88, and then he signed into law a tax increase. That's what people remember. Now, there may have been, arguably, I don't think the reasons were great for having a tax increase. That's more of a Keynesian thing.
Well, I mean, really, when presidents govern, they all function as Keynesian. In the short term, it's going to be very hard to be ideologically free market in the short term.
But the problem he had was he had said that, and people really remembered that.
I remembered it. I remembered it very well.
I remembered it too, and it was brought to our attention constantly that he had said that.
Right.
Of course, we have the Gulf War that took place during his presidency. We have the fall of the Berlin Wall. We have some pretty notable foreign policy achievements for President Bush. But I think you're right. A lot of people do remember that sort of domestic gaffe, if you want to call it that.
He appeared during that time to be very elitist, to be wealthy and out of contact with the people. And Clinton appeared to be at the time to be more of a down home. Kind of person that could relate more. Bush just didn't seem relatable. I can remember seeing one video of him at one point in time where he was trying to push an economic policy, and I mean it showed him buying a pair of socks. That was how his effect was. He just couldn't relate to what normal everyday people were going through.
Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, Clinton was cool also. And Bush was not. He was of the old school, the old money situation that you think about, and Clinton was the new celebrity. I think
I
that
don't
was an
disagree.
issue too.
For me, I lived in Arkansas when Clinton was governor, and he held no coolness for me.
Well, no, but he did for a lot of people. Yeah,
I think he did. I think he was young,
Yeah,
you
he
know,
was-
and just
yeah.
a different sounding person, not part of that old line political class.
I'm not trying to say something bad about Bush either. That's not necessarily a bad thing that I'm saying. Just saying that's what he was at the time. And at that time, I think we were experiencing a shift to the more
Yeah.
celebrity kind of
He's
president.
He's more of a World War II sort of guy. I mean,
Yeah.
you just sort of keep your feelings yourself. Don't talk about your private life. Sort of an odd fit almost with a Christian right from that period. I think Bush is a Christian,
Yeah.
an Episcopalian from what we can
Yeah.
understand, but never really talked much publicly about his faith.
He
which
did
would make
mention
him,
it.
Which would make him contrast with other people, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, he was interviewed on it a few years back, and
Right.
he made the comment that my upbringing as a Christian was, if you ask me whether I'm born again, I will say, depending on what you mean, do I believe in Jesus Christ? Yes. Is there a time that I can remember my conversion? He would say, I would say no. And he was a true blue Episcopalian, stereotype or not. They don't say a whole lot publicly about their faith,
Yeah.
even if they have a deep faith.
Yeah.
It's just the way they are.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Think of George Herbert Walker Bush in today's context. Any chance that he's a viable politician in today's world? And to what extent is he like his son, Jeb,
Yeah.
who's clearly not a viable politician, at least right now?
Jeb has a little bit more charisma.
Well, I listened to.
It's not saying a whole lot.
It's a low
A little bit more.
If you have that exclamation mark at the end of his name, then
I
maybe,
listened to Bush 41, and I've been hearing some clips
Right.
since he passed. And it's not that there's really a lack of charisma, I don't believe, although he didn't appear charismatic.
Well, today, by today's
Well,
standards.
it's just I don't think he would engage in what politicians do today. It just wouldn't be in his DNA
Yeah.
What do you-
to be a
yeah.
soundbite.
Right.
It just
Yeah.
wouldn't be there.
Right.
He was not braggadocious at all.
He wasn't at all.
And he was taught, to be humble. That
Right.
humility was a virtue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be really hard on him today to garner much web time.
Yeah, and I agree. And humility was a big issue there. The story was that when the Berlin Wall fell, that he was told he should take a very public stand on that. And
That's right.
Put
Take all the
himself out
credit.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
take all the
That's right,
credit.
right.
And his response was, "No, this is Germany's paraphrasing. This is Germany's moment. Let them have the glory."
And in the American context, it was Reagan's moment.
Yeah,
as
it
much
was
as
Reagan's moment
Bush's.
too. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Not his, and he knew it.
Yeah.
He
In
understood that.
reality context, it was economics moment.
That's right.
Because, I mean, we think about the role that the United States played in the demise of the Soviet Union, and it really was not vast, other than maybe pushing them
Right.
to put more into the military than they
Sure.
would have otherwise.
That
Yeah.
did make a difference. But
So not much of a place for George Herbert Walker Bush in today's Republican Party.
sadly,
Probably too polarized for him. I think
Yeah.
he's more willing to compromise, a little bit more moderate, I think.
Yeah.
He sounds a lot like Mitt Romney
yeah,
to me.
he's like
so
Mitt Romney.
I'm not sure there's a good place in the national stage right now for Mitt Romney, unfortunately.
Well, look what happened to Mitt Romney.
Right,
Well,
that's
just the
right.
fact that he was wealthy.
That's right.
The pot shots just came at him right and left. When the Democratic convention speech was given by Jennifer Granholm, she went on and on about his
yeah.
elevator for his car.
That's right.
Right. Like, okay, he's wealthy. Yes.
Somehow Trump was immune to that, though.
Yes.
The guy with the golden toilets and everything else was somehow not caricatured in the same way that Mitt Romney was. I don't. Is it
More of
just
a
'cause-
celebrity.
Yeah. Is it just because Trump is funnier? Is that what it
was-
comes down to?
Well,
It's
the way he
disturbing,
came across
but-
was very different from Romney
Sure,
too.
yeah,
and that made
absolutely.
a difference. So,
This is disturbing. I'm sorry. I mean, Romney's a humble guy. He doesn't brag about himself. Trump is the opposite of all those
Yeah, yeah.
things. It's really remarkable.
what do you do? I mean, I think
I
we
don't
live
think
in the
you could-
celebrity culture
I
today.
Yeah,
don't think
no
you could say
question.
anything about President Trump that would really affect him in any way. He would
wouldn't
blow it
matter
off and
anyway,
go on
that's
to the next thing.
Right.
Nothing you say would matter anyway.
Right.
So yeah, but we can still analyze them.
All right. So real quick, you two put on your academic hats. Do you think President Bush will get a kinder treatment from historians and scholars moving forward, or do you think we're always going to sort of relegate him to one of those one-term wonders, so to speak? Mark, what do you think?
Over time, I think his reputation is going to get better and better. He did a lot of things. He did them very well behind the scenes, and he was very competent and very humble. And I think that's really going to stand him well, and stand him in good stead in the future.
Well, I agree. I think we look at what he actually accomplished on the foreign relations scene was tremendous. He was a third-term Republican, if you look at it like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
he
right.
did follow up on President Reagan. And yeah, I think even in the last couple of days, which I imagine is normal when you're,
Right.
in a sense, eulogizing someone, the things I've been reading from both the right and the left have been very favorable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do think historically we will not look upon him as we did. I think that history will judge him much more kindly.
Yeah. We'll forget the tax issue too, I think.
A lot
More or
of
less.
similarities to John Adams, maybe, in some ways.
That's an
Sort
interesting
of the head of a political dynasty, son becomes president of the United States. Of course, I think Adams was a little bit more pugnacious.
A little bit.
Had a lot
yeah.
more enemies than,
Just a little
than
bit.
George Herbert Walker Bush. So, all right. Well, thanks very much for the discussion. Thank you for watching us today. We always appreciate your viewing. If you have any questions, then please send them to Matt's Marvelous Monday mailbag. Thank you.